said the person's at 2 o'clock, he don't know to look over there. He's like, that's 2 o'clock right there. That's 3 o'clock right there. Like, come on, we all teach them in school.
Yeah, I do like the clock back here. Thanks, whoever.
That's compliments of Tammy and Renee Coward.
All right.
Coming tonight, we're glad everybody's here. At this time, I'm going to call on Miss Sharon to do the opening invocation, followed by Dr. Dixon to do the pledge. Miss Sharon?
Bow our heads. Lord, we thank you for allowing us to come at this hour, Lord. And we thank you right now for our schools opening back up safely. Thank you for our teachers who have prepared so diligently for our students, Lord God. And we ask, Heavenly Father, that you give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, Heavenly Father, to do what we need to do, Lord God, to handle your business and our school system as a whole. And we just thank you right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask for someone to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank y'all. Any discussion? Here none, call for question. I'll approve the agenda. Please indicate with raised hands. That is unanimous, Ms. Tammy. Okay. I'd like to call Mr. Henry Avery. How are you doing, sir? Great, thank you.
While Mr. Acree's coming up, I wanted to let you know why I asked him to present. You know, we voted on and made some handbook changes in the handbook for this year, but the principals got together and sort of clarified some of those points, and he's going to share with us exactly what they've done.
Right.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. On the cell phone policy, I think when we did the original version of it, that there was to be no cell phones allowed, but the principal at the middle and the high school wished to have the option to allow students to use the cell phones at lunchtime, where they can listen to music and do different things with that, because some of them are parents and some of them have jobs and also. So that was one of the things they asked there for the cell phone. Right. And then also on the dress code, we talked about fingertip. Then back and revisit that also. They decided to leave that alone and go back and revisit that in December. Go back and try to enforce and see how it goes with enforcement. So that there will be no change to the dress code policy. But those are the two things need to clarify.
So what we have said and what the board approved was no cell phones during the school day.
Correct.
And then after it was approved, they got together and said, all right, so we're okay at lunch. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I can support that. I think some of the conversation was that during lunch, you know, they're sort of to themselves, they're sitting at their tables, and it doesn't create such a problem. And I'm okay with that if you guys are. And then, so the dress code, just to clarify for me, same, just what we approved.
Yes.
And then come back, see how it goes, see if there's any major issues, and then maybe tweak it or revise it.
Yes, sir.
In the December meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thanks for that. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Acre.
you, Mr. Acre. Next up, Dr. Holly. Hello.
Hey.
Okay, for personnel, first at the middle school, We wanted to recommend Mr. Adam Gray as the CMS golf coach. That was Dr. Josh Bryan, but now that he's moved to the high school, he's requested not to be the middle school golf coach. And so Coach Gray said he would take that on if approved. And then at the middle school also, Parker Exum as a special education paraprofessional. We hired her a few months back as a substitute, and we had an opening in the classroom that she was subbing in as a long-term sub. That's going to be a permanent opening, which I'll get to in just a minute on why it's a permanent opening.
You have a list of these?
Yeah, can you let the thing roll?
Ah.
I don't see it.
Sorry,
have it
I
cheat
thought
sheet.
y'all had it up.
The only reason it's not is because until we vote on it, because we're live, we don't display personnel yet.
Okay.
So they can't see it.
Yeah.
Well,
See it
they
on my
have
phone.
been able to
She on your
see
phone,
it,
maybe.
but I didn't print a hard copy for them to see.
Oh.
Well, and
Do
let
you want me to go make
well,
a hard copy?
Yeah, hang on, let me finish with the rest of the story. Once we get all this, there's some pieces to our equipment that's missing. You will be able to see it without being up publicly, okay? So, but we're not there yet. So that's, hopefully, next meeting, that part will be in, and you will be able to see it. So I'm sorry.
You may go make a copy.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I got mine on my phone.
You got yours.
We still got some tweaking to do with our fancy dancy equipment.
If it's okay, I'll go ahead and go through the list, and then when you get the list, if you have any questions, we can go back over those. So at the high school, Mr. Justin Watson, we have a resignation from Miss Abby Halbig. Her family's moving, so they did interviews last week, and so we would like to recommend Mr. Watson to replace her. At the Cook Performance Learning Center, Ms. Talia Brown did her internship there last year, and she graduated with her degree, and she was actually going to be the special education paraprofessional at the middle school. Then an opening came up at the Alternative Learning Center, and so she asked if she could have that position. We opened that up. So she would be transferring, if approved, from a para to a facilitator at the Cook Performance Learning Center. 2 certified substitute teachers, Ms. Heidi McDaniel, who retired with us last year as a pre-K teacher, and Ms. Kayla Parrish was a kindergarten teacher. So they've both asked to be put on the substitute list, which is great because they're both certified teachers. And then 1 bus driver, Mr. Roy Nava, 3 bus monitors, Vicki Brown, Amber Morgan, and Kayla Ward. And then nutrition substitute, Ms. Tamaya Smith. And then, like I mentioned, the resignation of Ms. Halbig. Just from speaking, before you have your list, is there any questions?
Yeah, there's one person that is new, that is a new position. Did I understand that correctly?
That's right, Taya Brown.
And
And that's due to numbers at the Cook Performance Learning Center. They have 2 paras there, but they needed another teacher because it's just Dr. Williams and the 2 paraprofessionals. And then we have a part-time special ed teacher.
yeah, that's at the PLC, not at the Early Learning Center, though, correct?
No, Cook Performance Learning Center.
Yeah, when you asked me, I had on my mind that it was the Early Learning Center.
Gotcha.
Okay, and I knew there was not a new person there, so.
No, sir.
So that answers it for me, too. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll give you a second to look at the list to make sure you don't have any more questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you doing that.
So is this Justin Watson, is he, I mean, had he been interviewed before maybe, or is he coming like a new teacher, or his experience, or can we ask that?
You can ask that. He's coming as a new teacher. He's from Cook County.
They came through the system.
He
Okay,
did.
wonderful.
But
I thought his name
never
looked
been a
familiar.
teacher, is that right, Dr. Williams? But he has his degree in agriculture, and he and I have already met to talk about what his next steps would be to get certified.
Good.
So,
I know a little bit about this gentleman. I've met this gentleman, but I don't know him. Back when he was in school, Mr. Herring encouraged this young man to go get his degree in ag education. And he listened so well, he didn't. But now, he's, in Mr. Herron's opinion, and obviously he's our director, he's a good choice. And he wished that he had done this a few years ago. I don't know how old the gentleman is, but we think it's a good hire. So he's excited. If Mr. Herron's excited and Dr. Williams is excited, then I'm excited.
When will he start?
Yes, sir.
When will he start?
Oh, he will start, that was kind of up for discussion. Was he gonna give his 2 weeks' notice, or were they gonna let him out of that?
I can see the look in their eyes. They don't have an answer, so.
I believe he was waiting to be approved tonight, and then he was gonna, go forward with seeing how soon he could start. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry again about the turnout.
Next up, Miss Jackie Sparks. Hello, Miss Lana.
I think she paid somebody. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hey,
I'll be knock myself out with my glasses on and the microphone, so. I am talking about, to begin with, will be on your screens, is our 7-year bus replacement plan. This is a plan that we began when Dr. Dixon came. As many of you know, our buses were not in great shape, and we were looking for a way to figure out how we could start basically a systematically repurchasing of buses along so that they didn't all come due at one time, and try to get all of our children on air-conditioned buses, which was a huge problem at that point in time. So if you'll look at year one, right now will be the 2022-23 school year. If approved, we've always approved 4 buses from this plan. And then typically we have 1 bus from the state that's offered up. So we typically have 5 buses that are purchased within a school year. And if you'll look at those buses, this will make us completely have air-conditioned routes for all routes, regardless if you're in the city or if you're out in the rural. Doesn't matter. Everybody will have AC buses, which, I mean, we all know the heat indexes in South Georgia, like 5 months out of the year. I'm sure those little kids and the bus drivers both will be proud of that. If you'll look in the 3rd year right there, I have a green highlighted bus. It's bus 31. I just kind of wanted to give y'all reference from, that's the first bus that we purchased when we started this replacement plan. So we're that close to having an entire new fleet just in the time that Dr. Dixon has been with us. So, I mean, I think that's outstanding. I think that this board is to be congratulated on that. I know that our community is very appreciative, and so am I. So is our transportation department. Ms. Lana Siska, she can let you in on that. Also, our just a reminder that our repairs and maintenance expenses have went down completely, almost down to just standard care right now, the way things are. So that's a positive for us as well. Does anybody have any questions about our bus replacement plan? I know we go through this every year, and y'all might get tired of talking to me about it, but I just think it's something that's very important. I want y'all to see how far we've come and, you know, what's left to do. And we're really close right now of having a completely new fleet. Okay. The way that we facilitate this plan, just to remind everyone, is that we pass a bond meal for our taxes, which I'll cover in just a moment. I wish I would have went back and saw how long we've been doing that, but I want to say it's the past 6 years. I can verify that for y'all if anybody wants to know. But we use the bond meal. Those funds have to be used to pay off our bond debt, which is what we have taken out to do all of our improvements. So we use the bond meal money to pay on the bond debt expense, which frees up SPLOST money, which was originally going to pay for the bond debt. And with those SPLOST funds, we can do anything that is mapped out on the resolution as approved by the local community. And on that was the purchase of new school buses. So that's how we fund this plan, and that's how we've been doing it for the past few years. Anybody have any questions?
So the bus that we're talking about replacing 31 in 2025, how old will it be then? 7 years old, 6 years old?
It's a 2017, so we'll replace it in 2025. So, I mean,
Okay, all right. I think I read or saw somewhere we got 38 buses in our fleet. Are all those buses on routes, or do we have any?
38 is on route. We have more than that in our fleet. She had some extra ones in case we have any down buses, or if she has field trips, or the football and band are both going in one direction. And
Gotcha. That's what I'm asking. I knew we had some rough buses there for a while that we were trying to get. Right. Okay, well, okay, that goes to my next question. Are we gonna be, like, when we get to this one, is it gonna be rotated out of the fleet, or is it gonna be sold? Is it gonna be held for a spare?
Hey, excuse me, when, if you'll come up to the mic, and I'm leaning away from the mic, I know that, yes, thank you, because we're trying to keep folks on Facebook, or we're doing it on YouTube now, so they can hear. I'm sorry.
The ones that I'm selling this go around is my oldest buses.
Right.
And those we sell. These here that come off, these are our best sub buses that we keep now.
That's what I'm getting at. Okay.
These, like when band and football go, these are the ones that I use now.
Okay.
My oldest ones are being sold.
When we buy our new buses, is there any type of warranty or anything that we're getting with them? I know you said our expenses was way down, and I can see that with new equipment, but is there any type of warranty coverage with those?
Yeah, in the packet that I have right here, it's a 5-year warranty, 5 years unlimited miles, and the 4 transmission. Yeah, they all come with
Okay.
great warranties.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
How many don't have air conditioners at this point? 3? Are they on routes or not?
Yes, yes.
That'll get replaced this year is what
Yes.
we're planning to do if it's approved.
Then they'll all be air conditioned, everybody will be happy.
okay, any
Anybody
questions?
else?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siskin. The next part of my presentation will be just reviewing what we covered at our last meeting. We went over taking the rollback for our tax millage so that we didn't actually have an increase in taxes. So that is what we have published in our newspaper, and that is what we need to ask for your blessings to approve at the next board meeting. So with the rollback, it is 15.075 mills. That's for maintenance and operation. And then we'll also request the passing of the 1 bond mill, which will cover the buses like we've talked about, for a total of 16.075 mills.
How much is a bond mill worth at this point? Do you know? I mean, or a mill, not necessarily a bond mill, but a
Yes,
mill.
just a meal. Me and Tammy Nix, our average that we're thinking right now is about 390,000, but it is changing, every year. But it also is changing for the good. I mean, it's kind of like our SPLOST tax dollars. It's really to me, it's hard to understand that you couldn't have a reassessment and then the bond mill or a mill be assessed at something a little bit higher, but it's went from 357 when we first started to around 390, so that's.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, then the next part, if y'all will turn to your next screen on the financial update, we're gonna cover the month of June. I'm gonna be just as honest and forthcoming with you guys as I can be. The month of June stays open from the month of July, August, and September. That is for us to close our fiscal year. So we do all of our completion reports for our state and federal funding. We book all of our journal entries for debt, for capital assets. We just do a lot of closing, wrapping up the year procedures. So these numbers, I'm required by the state's new rules to report on them, but they will change, and they will change drastically as we do completion reports. The reason is we have state and federal grants that we have paid in advance for, and then we will get money back for. So our revenues will grow in our general fund and our federal funds especially. But if you'll look, our fund balance right now for general fund is at $6.5 million. Our capital projects fund, we've spent $11.6 million this year. We've got revenues at 3.7. That is our SPOS revenues and any interest that we've earned on those accounts. And we've got an ending fund balance of $12.6 million. Our federal funds, don't panic. We're going to get our money for these, but right now we look like we're in a hot mess. Our federal funds now have a negative $5.3 million fund balance, but once we do our completion report, that will be zero. And our school nutrition funds have an ending fund balance of $1.4 million. Theirs should be pretty much solidified because they have started their next fiscal year. You may have any questions?
Do you have one of those sheets?
I do not have one of those.
Okay, because it looks like you need to make a new adjustment as the highest ending fund balance.
But see, I don't know what the final ending fund balance for June is because I haven't closed the month of June. So I won't do that sheet and make my highlight until then.
But I can be safe using a pencil.
Yes, you can be safe using a pencil.
Thank you. Okay.
And you can even highlight that pencil when you get home. But I just, when it's all said and done, I will give that to y'all for sure. The last bit of information that I want to share, I try not to bother the boss man on his cell phone unless it is absolutely necessary. But he did get a random text over the weekend as Jackie did this paper because I wanted him to know the good news. So we have started now comparing FY23 numbers to 22 for our SPLOS tax comparison. And for the month of July, we are up $84,000 from last July. So, green is good.
Yes.
Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, that's a big number.
It is a very big number. That's why I said he got
That's better than any month last year.
he got a text message.
Though started out, it said, "Hey."
Yeah,
I thought maybe something was wrong.
I was like, guess what? That didn't make it any better, probably.
When she sent it, I was pretty excited.
Yes.
For sure. And let me point one thing out, it obviously comes from our local folks spending their money locally, and that's huge. You see those advertisements all over our community about, spend your money at home. Well, that helps us tremendously, and for that, we're grateful. But also, we've got our city is providing power to these companies that are mining Bitcoins, and that's way above my pay grade. I don't understand that world at all, and probably will not. But I do understand this part of it. They're paying us 1 penny on the dollar, and at the end of the day, that's coming to us, and for that, I'm grateful. I want to, and I should have that memorized, and I did have that number memorized, but it has gone up. I will get that number again, but it's gone up over time, and we're grateful for that as well. So that is a contributing factor as well.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are you going to cover the fundraisers?
Yes, is it,
Okay.
I'm up, okay. All right, we've got Cook Primary School fundraisers for 22-23. All year, they would like to sell ice cream, and in the fall of 2022, they would like to have the Charleston Wrap fundraiser through, you see the months. They would like to sell CPS school shirts August 3rd through the 6th, and then a cookbook as a possibility. Now, is the PTO going to sponsor that, or is that going to be a school-wide? I did not ask that question as far as the primary school. Where's my primary school?
That is going to be a PTO-sponsored fundraiser. They are looking into the cost and the feasibility, but then whenever they raise those funds, they'll put it back into the school. Down at the bottom where you see the fundraising goals, those are some of the things that PTO would like to put their money back into to invest in the teachers and the students.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Obviously, parent-teachers organizations and associations do not have to get board approval. Are all of these PTO-sponsored?
Charleston Wrap is, the shirt is not.
Okay.
Melting Candles and the Family Dance are, and the Valentine's Store is sock.
Okay. So the ones that are school, just for me, I'm a little slow, for the school-related board approval needed fundraisers, they are?
Ice cream all year long.
Okay.
And then we have an addition to that that was a little bit of a late addition that hit my desk this morning, and that is school store. And we're looking at possibly rolling that out after fall break so that we don't fundraise our parents to death. But that would be a CPS-sponsored one, and that should be on your updated Google Doc. So the CPS school shirt is also a school fundraiser. And those should be the big ones. And sock. That's our social coordinate, our family resource coordinators, and then our counselors.
So Melton Candles, no?
No, sir, that's PTO.
And Family Dance,
That's PTO as well.
so Valentine's Store.
That is SOC. That would be one that would need board approval because our school counselors and then our parent resource coordinators sponsor that one.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
So that is Cook Primary. Of course, you see the goals that they have listed there. Final payment for the, again, that's PTO.
Yes, sir.
Boom Days, PTO.
We are also going to help sponsor Boom Days. So that one's PTO and CPS admin, the Boom Days.
A whoop whoop cart.
It's just as fun as it sounds.
Okay, and I believe that. Teacher Appreciation Week, back to school breakfast for teachers, field trips, and then, of course, the book vending machine.
And all of those, we share the financial responsibility with PTO. We're thankful that they do help us, but CPS admin also kicks in on all of that. It's a shared responsibility.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions from board members?
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right, that's Cook Primary. All right, let's go to Cook Elementary. Again, let me just be clear that these are school fundraisers that need approval from the board. We've got concessions, erasers, gel pens, ice cream, musical performance, notebook paper, pencils, poppin' popcorn catalog, school dance, school store fundraiser, school pictures, T-shirts, yearbook sales. Now, these are just randomly put up here, explain what you got going on.
These are all fundraisers that would go back into our school account to support teacher incentives, student incentives, to help fund our programs to encourage students. Our Hornet Hop, which is our version of promoting positive behavior, it would help support those. It would help provide incentives for teachers throughout the year as we celebrate their successes as well.
So a question I have, the Poppin' Popcorn catalog, will that be for a specific period of time? Will that be all year?
That would be for a specific period of time. We're planning to kick that off at the end of August. And sales would go on for a 2 to 3 week period.
Okay. Concessions would mean like after class change or at ball games?
Before and after school.
Okay.
Before and after school.
All right. That's all the questions I have. Any board members have any specific questions? Thank you. Next, we have Cook Middle School, and you can read the list as well as I can read them out. Excuse me. Any particular ones that will be designated for a period of time?
We're going to start the school year out with the produce boxes. And like I said, that's a local fundraiser there as well. Focus on teacher supplies, technology. One thing I like to stress with our teachers, I don't want them to spend $1 out of their pocket if possible. So we raise money within the school to get any needed supplies they may need in the classroom.
You know, one of you already hit on this, but one thing that we definitely need to do, Mr. Akery, and you may have already taken this into account, is while each school has their own lengthy 3, 4, 5-day fundraiser, is that we don't overlap. Just make sure we take that into consideration and be sensitive to the parents that have multiple kids and be sensitive to the community as well. And that's why I was asking specifically about these fundraisers that were going for over multiple days or weeks. So what I'm saying, board, is we'll make sure that is the case to make sure that happens. Any questions for the middle school fundraisers? And last, CHS, and it's quite extensive, but very well laid out. I'm not going to read it. Dr. Williams, would you like to elaborate on any of your many fundraisers?
Most of these are our clubs and athletics, and we have them all divided as they turn theirs in. Bake sales, different tournaments that we have, the raffles, and each club and athletic department, they turn theirs in, and Ms. Simmons goes through and puts them in these different categories. But I actually have all of them when they email them to describe each one and when they'll all take place. So if anyone has any questions, we have those that are not characterized this way, but if you have more detailed questions, I have all of those.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. All right, do we have any others? I'm not seeing one flash up on the screen, so next up would be field trip requests, and we have had many that we have approved already that are not out of state or overnight. These are requests that are either out of state or overnight or both. The first one is the Cook High School TSA. They're going to Clayton, Georgia, taking 8 students. They have met the board policy requirements. Any questions on this particular CHS TSA field trip? This is another CHS TSA field trip request going over to Jekyll Island. They've got 10 students, 2 adults, again, meeting the requirements. Any questions over this field trip request? This is a field trip request by the FBLA, 1 adult, 3 students, again, meeting the requirement, going to Perry, Florida.
I'm thinking that should be Perry, Georgia. Is that? Because on, I looked somewhere else and when I was looking at the agenda at home and it was to Perry, Georgia.
When I saw Perry, Florida, I was thinking the same thing you were, Richard. Fish bait. So we'll get that corrected. Thank you, Miss Brenda. We have PACES group from Cook Elementary, Ms. Jones, number of adults 2, number of students 30. Need to check that. Are we good?
Those are school-based adults. We have multiple parents.
Okay. Thank you. So we're good far as number of chaperones there, and any other questions there? All right. That is the field trip request.
Thank you. Next up, we have the district online programs. You gonna address that?
Not till I see the agenda and let me read it. Okay, this is where I'm going to talk about this is not online like you think, an online school. These are programs that the district has bought over the past year or so that didn't require your approval, but I just wanted you to be aware. And the first one is one that Mr. Acree brought to my attention, and I thought it was something that we needed. He talked with the principals. They, in turn, thought the same thing. And we've got a real short clip that we want to show. So I'm going to open up with it. So if you would, just take a moment and watch this. It's very short. You know, whether you agree with it or not, these things do happen in our schools, and what I like is that's an encrypted message that is sent to the administrators by an anonymous person, and it gives the administrator an opportunity to investigate it, and they may find out that it is true, or they may find out it is not true, but it gives every kid a voice, and you got to remember. You think back to when you were in school and the amount of confidence that you had when you were 7 or 14 or 18, you may not have had a problem reporting something such as these listed items, but you may have had an issue with having enough confidence in going to an adult, especially when it involves a peer. So we think this is a good program, and we really think it will help in some of our incidents that occur throughout the school year. Any questions over these? And Mr. Acree I'm going to defer all the great answers to Mr. Acree, but I do know it's a really nice program.
When you say program, what's the format? I mean, maybe I missed that part. They do it on their phone, they send a message to the folks. How does it?
Yes, sir. They can actually, there's an app they download to their phone, and once they download the app, they'll be able to send out any type of message back to the administrator. I think Richard's been doing a lot of stuff with it also. He actually went to the meeting down in Florida, I think with the guy, met with Mr. Andy.
Besides the app, even when you download the app, because all that information is pushed out this week, but there's There are lots of particulars that they can put in to make their alert more specific, and then that gets pushed out to administrators, SROs, and school counselors.
It's like a monthly service charge or monthly rolling thing?
It was a yearly license. It's a yearly subscription license. It doesn't require any kind of equipment, hardware, or anything. It's just a cloud-based deal that we have a link again on our websites, and then the app can be downloaded on a phone also.
So
We have lots of schools in our area, not just, around the state, but in our area that have really appreciated the fact that their students and their parents could anonymously report incidents that might happen. It gives our kids a voice, parents a voice.
Yeah, I like this, but are you going to have some type format where you roll it out to the students so they all know this is something that's available to them?
Yes, sir. We're in the process of doing that now. The high school is actually preparing the video for us with students, and they'll present it back to the community from that aspect. When we ready, me and Rich are going to talk about it probably tomorrow now, but about when we're going to roll it out. But we have plans on doing it just like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It'll go out on social media. It'll be pushed out, text message, email, like the school district normally does. And it's already up and running now, but we've got an instructional video that Mr. McDowell is creating that as soon as it's ready, which we're assuming one day this week, then we'll be ready to push everything out.
So that will be sent to parents also?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hare and Mr. Acree. All right, we've got a couple of others. The next one I'd like for Joy Folsom to speak on is a program called Hi, Mama.
This is for the Early Learning Center, and we've just purchased this, and it's where we can register our children that stay in with us through this. It's an app, and the parents have an app. So we're in the process of getting the training and getting it installed, but the parents can click on their app, and the Early Learning Center, when the child eats, they'll put the information in so the parents can check it anytime during the day when their kid naps, has diaper change, eats lunch, snack, or whatever. So it's an app with information about their child throughout the day. We track attendance with it, milestones as they grow and make certain developments. All that will be inside that app.
Any questions for Ms. Folsom? Thank you. All right, of course, some of them you are familiar with. We talked about this one, I believe, couple of weeks ago in our last meeting, and that was the frontline sub call out and leave. We still utilize that, and I think most folks are familiar with it. We've got eTrieve onboarding and accounts payable, something that we started a couple of years ago, and it's really ramped up our paperwork. We have done away with a lot of paper copies, and we now do a lot of those type of items online. It goes through an approval process with the director and then to me. And we did have some opportunities for growth early, but I think we've got most of those resolved to this date, and it seems to be working nicely. Exact Path, we've got Unique Learning, Ames Web Plus, Right to Learn, Insights to Behavior. Ms. McElrath, any one of those last four that you'd like to speak on?
So in special education, one of the federal requirements is that we, track progress on goals that are written in IEPs. We really had a system, it was just a makeshift system really in Cook County. We were using some Google Docs, some Google Forms, and the special ed team really felt we needed a more systematic, comprehensive way to be able to track those goals and to be able to share that information with parents. So Ames Web Plus is the platform that we're going to be using for academic goals, and we are in the process this year of rolling that out. And we have had some training, all of our special ed teachers have had some training on that. Insights to behavior is something that we are doing what I call a soft rollout this year, and that's simply because we've got to get Ames Web Plus rolling first. But insights to behavior is something that I'm very, very excited about, because what that platform is going to allow us to do is to be able to do FBAs, functional behavior assessments, on students that are presenting with behavior issues in schools, and allow us to write their sales pitch is legally defensible behavior intervention plans. So we're very excited about that. So our focus right now is Ames Web Plus, but we do have our coordinators are familiar with insights to behavior, and they are using that with some of our students that have more significant behavior needs, but we'll be rolling that out probably more towards the end of the year. Unique Learning is our curriculum that we use with our students that have more significant disabilities, and then Right to Learn just goes along with Ames Web Plus.
Those are new programs you're putting in, I guess, new platforms?
Yes, that's right.
What new ones did you just mention that we hadn't used before? Most of yours?
As far as the new ones, hang on just a minute, I'll give it back to Tammy.
So is Ames Web Plus, is that a curriculum or app? I'm sorry.
Well, neither. It's just a platform. It's not an app. Okay. It's a program.
Okay.
Sold by Pearson, who's big in the education industry, and it's not a curriculum, but it's a way to assess and monitor and report student progress on IEP goals. See, students in special education, not only do they get their report card on what they're doing in class every day, but we have an agreement with the parent through their IEP that says, okay, we're going to work on these deficits, so these are the goals that we're going to do, and we have to report those goals to parents every 9 weeks. So this is going to allow us to collect that data, and it's also going to allow us to just have one platform on which we do that for the entire school system.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, going back over the list, Mr. Chairman, other than the ones that they've already had conversation about, we have been using. And it's just for information. We wanted you to know, what we had available and what our folks were able to use. And I'm not a believer that program substitutes for teaching. It does not. We tried that a couple of years ago. We found out it doesn't work. There's nothing better than having a good teacher in the classroom. So just point of information, we try to be, we did, in fact, Ms. Folsom actually did this for us 4 years ago when she did an audit of the programs. You remember that. And we had over, it can get away from me, but we had bought a bunch of programs on a list about this long, and we were using about, so we've tried to be very frugal, and if we buy it, we use it. And if we use it, we want to see results. And that's sort of where we are right now with that. Any other questions? All right, as far as the agenda is item C, that's it. Okay, so let me share one I asked before. I did want to, this is not on the agenda, but I did want to give you a comparison. I've always liked to track the first 10 days of school to see where we are. And, most of the rural school districts will tell you that they're losing numbers. Kids are leaving the rural communities, going to the metro areas, and that's not my opinion, that's fact. But so I track it, and because I'm always interested to see. In 2020, at the beginning of the school year, we had 3,038 kids, and in 2022, we forgot to pay our power bill and lights went out. No, in 2021, we were at 3,074, and then in 2023, today, we're at 2,931. So currently, we're at 143 students down from last year. And I think we'll see that number grow. I know that, I had a conversation with Rusty, and he was about 100 students short the first day. Now, that did pick up today, but I'm sure we've still got some students that they understand the rule. We can't count you absent till you show up. So, I think I will probably end up first in the first 10 days, a few students short of last year, but we'll be really close. So you may not be interested. It's just something I've always tracked and wanted to share with you guys. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Okay, this time I'd like to call this meeting adjourned. All right. Everybody good to go?
Yeah, we got.
Oh, Scott, give us about 5 minutes. going to call on Mr. Sumner to do the opening invocation, followed by Dr. Dixon to do the pledge.
All right, let us pray. Our kind of gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, just thank you for this day you set aside, Lord, to help us to do the business of the school system here in Cook County, Lord. We just pray that you be in our midst and you lead and guide and direct our decisions according to your will. Pray all this in Christ's name. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, at this time, I need to get the agenda approved. However, we made some amendment. We're going, under the action items, may not be sure on you guys, but we're going to have to recommend the handbook notations by Mr. Akery. So we need to make the approval subject to or amended to where it reflects that.
Motion to approve with the amendment.
Thank you.
I second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for questions. All approved, please indicate, raise hands. Unanimous. Thank y'all. Okay, at this time we have public comment section, and Mr. Moser, what we do is allow 5 minutes to speak, and if any correspondence needs to be made, it's handled through our Board of Education. Yes, sir, please come up.
Good evening. My name's Ron Mozo. I spoke to Jeff Taylor at the city council meeting last week. I'm retired military. I haven't had any children in school in 25 years. And I feel fortunate. My kids all had a great education here. But I would like to see if there was a reduction in school taxes for veterans and retirees. If there can be one. Because I've had a lot of people ask me that because of the group I belong to, Vietnam veterans, right here in Cook County. Why don't they give men over 65 or 75 a discount on school taxes? Can you give me an answer?
We normally handle that through correspondence. We'll mail you.
Okay.
We'll do it that way.
All right, thank you.
You got 5 minutes or a couple, however long you want to talk.
No, that's about it. I just wanted to bring that up because I'm
Sure.
bringing it up to my fellow servicemen and retirees. I've asked them, why do they get a discount when they don't have any kids in school? And my kids have been out of school for 25 years. And I know it's been brought up a couple times in and around, but I would just like to know the feedback so I can tell some of the
Sure.
guys that I brought it up to the Board of Education about a discount on school taxes.
We can send you something by the end of the week, you think?
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
We'll get your address too, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Tammy's got it, yeah.
2501 Massey Post Road.
I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mozo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else like to share? Okay. Next up, I'd like to ask Judge Chase Daughtry to come up, please.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
I don't tell the commissioners this, but y'all got a little nicer than they do down there south of town. This is a very nice facility y'all have here, and I appreciate y'all letting me come see y'all tonight. You know, from time to time, I like to try to come and see the board and give y'all a truancy update as to what we're doing with the truancy cases in the county. I think it's been a year or two since we have come and discussed this, but we have had you know, as COVID kind of leveled back out, you know, there was some, you know, online learning during that time period. That really wasn't an issue that it was enforced, but probably not as strictly as y'all could have, just due to the nature of the issue. We were all in uncharted territory, and there was a lot of leniency extended during that time period. But as we have gotten back to a sense of normalcy, we have seen a little uptick in some of our truancy cases. And to give y'all an idea of just, or a reminder, if you will, kind of what our process is. You know, the statute says if anyone has more than 5 unexcused absences, then after that they can be considered habitually truant. Now, Ms. Breeden's here, and I'm sure she'll tell you that, you know, not on day 6 are we knocking in doors, dragging folks to jail. There's a process that we go through. Statute requires numerous contacts with the parents via certified mail, requires in-person meetings with the school and the parent before the sheriff's office can actually bring a misdemeanor charge for truancy. Now, historically, I could argue that the statute says for every missed day after 5, that could be 1 count. So if they have 20 unexcused absences, we could charge them for 20 separate offenses. Now, we don't try to be heavy-handed that way. We normally just do the 1 count of truancy and deal with it accordingly. Now, once they are charged with truancy, we schedule what's called a pre-arraignment conference. So even though it is a criminal offense, we really don't like to treat these folks like criminals if we can help it, because normally there's underlying issues going on in the home that has resulted in the child not coming to school or the parents absent or whatnot. So at that pre-hearing conference that we have, the prosecutor's there, a guardian ad litem that represents the child's present, Ms. Breeden is present, the school social worker. We also have a public defender there, and if the court's aware of any pending DFACS actions, Ms. Deborah Gordon will be there from DFACS as well. We bring the parent in that has been charged. We advise them of their rights. We advise them what they've been charged with. We advise them of what the maximum penalties are if they are convicted. And we normally try to take a dive into a couple different things. 1, the absences. 2, the grades, and then try to figure out a path forward to get the issue addressed. Most of these result in what we call a pre-arraignment order, and that pretty much says, okay, this is what we're going to do for the remainder of the school year. Child can't have no more than 5 unexcused absences. You're going to attend parenting classes if needed. You're going to attend behavioral health classes at Legacy if we feel like it's needed. You're going to stay in contact with the school, whether it be weekly, bi-monthly, whatever we feel is necessary, and you're subject to random drug testing. Now, if we go through a school year and that has been successful and there hasn't been any issues, it is our policy to dismiss their case. We have had pretty good luck. Several of those have been dismissed. There have been others where we have had to put them on probation just due to repeated issues. Normally if someone goes on probation for a truancy offense, it is a repetitive problem that has not been cleared up or rectified, if you will. For example, if you go on probation, you're normally looking at a $300 fine, 10 to 20 hours community service, again, monthly probation meetings, and you're subject to alcohol and drug testing. And you may be asking why we throw that in there a lot. That normally is an underlying issue in the home, we have found, is the alcohol and the drugs. So we put that in there as a requirement where we can drug test them. Unfortunately, we've had a few parents that we've had to incarcerate. Just this year, one parent was sentenced to 90 days in jail, another to 15 days in jail, and I believe DFACS removed the child from the home after that particular parent's incarceration period. We had another one that served 2 days in jail and did 25 hours community service. We even had one lady that brought her husband to court, had on a shirt that says he does dumb things, and he did in court. So he went to jail, and it wasn't even his truancy case. So it's really unfortunate when you get to that. But I would say, and I think Ms. Sherry would agree, that 80% of the people we deal with do try to work with us or meet us in the middle on some of these truancy issues. And we are trying to be proactive in getting the children in school, because if the child's going to school, then their grades are good. If their grades are good, they're going to pass to the next grade. So in each one of these conferences that we have, we probably spend 30 minutes with each parent, and that's going over their grades, their attendance, trying to figure out what's going on in the home and any relevant DFACS records. It is sad when you do have some parents in there that can't even tell you who their child's homeroom teacher is. Unfortunately, like I said, normally truancy is just one of many issues going on in the home. But I feel like we're being successful with the program. We appreciate y'all allowing us to handle the truancy cases. We have encountered 1 or 2 children that, let me say this, for the parent to be charged with truancy, the child's got between ages 6 and 16, so kindergartners don't count. And then if you do get a child that's probably a high school child and it's evident that the child's the issue and not the parent, then we can refer that to the juvenile court to be dealt with. But that's just kind of a snapshot of how we've handled truancy. since COVID started back, and I'll take any questions or criticisms that y'all may have or things we could do different.
Judge Daughtry, you said it best. Our intent is not to penalize the parents. Our intent is to get the child to school, and that's what we're after here. And you've done a tremendous job, and we appreciate the efforts. We appreciate the time. There's a lot of school districts that wish that they had the support of their probate judge as we do, and for that, we're most appreciative.
Well, and I really appreciate Ms. Sherry. Ms. Sherry does a great job working with these parents, and that's something else to keep in mind too. When like Ms. Sherry brings us the files normally a couple of days before court, and we go through them, she does an excellent job through her and the rest of the staff of documenting. To be honest with you, a lot of the non-encounters with the parent, where they've called the parent, they went to the parent's house, they've sent certified letters. So that really gets us in a pretty good position that when we're dealing with that parent in court, that we do have a good record-keeping system that Ms. Sherry puts together that be like, well, hang on now, you didn't know this, but if you'd have went to this meeting that a sheriff's deputy brought the letter to your house and gave to you, then you wouldn't be here today. So that really gets us in a good position to deal with these. So I'm really complimentary of her and the job y'all do too, because that really makes it.
Where's Ms. Sherry at?
I'm here.
Stand up, Ms. Sherry. Thank you for a job well done. And that's coming from the judge, not from the superintendent.
I do have one question.
And Ms. Sherry has also unfortunately had hear me use colorful language before that my mama probably would not be proud of. But when you deal with some of these folks, it just comes out on Ms. Sherry. You just can't help it sometimes.
I just have a quick curiosity about, I guess, the tendency on the schools. Do you have, with the truancy, is it all schools? Do you see it mostly at certain ages?
I think Ms. Sherry would agree more middle and high school kids. We do have some that are elementary. I'd say very few primary kids. We have had a couple. Sometimes, I'm just going to give you a snapshot. You might have an issue where there's multiple children in the home. And we had one particular case where one middle school student wasn't really going to school because he needed to stay home and take care of the babies. And you probably remember that one. So yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag, but more so I'd say probably the middle school kids. Like I said, you do get some elementary school kids, and you also have a lot of, and I don't think there's anything we can probably do to fix this, is just parents don't want to be parents too. If their kid's 13 years old and don't want to get out of bed, mama just leaves them there. Well, I don't think there's no amount of government that can probably solve that problem to an extent. And we do live in an entitlement society now, where, I mentioned the lady's husband who came, very defiant. We were picking on them. They didn't understand why we were, I think maybe harassing might have been the word that they used. Like, okay, well, your daughter's failing, sixth grade or whatever it was at the time. She's missed 40-something days of school, and no one here seems to care but the people around this table. So when you're dealing with that type of mindset, Mr. Chairman, it does make it difficult. But that particular individual went on probation. We got the child into summer school. That is something we will take advantage of, because we try to do truancy court about twice a year, just kind of give us an idea where we can kind of give them some time to get the issues rectified. So if we bring them in at the end of the school year and they've been habitually truant, and we think there's a way to get them to the next grade, and Ms. Sherry recommends, summer school will probably work from talking with the teachers, then we'll make that a requirement that they have to attend, summer school to try to get them to the next. And it's a mixed bag. I mean, we've had one lady, I think her daughter was at the primary school, and I think really the lady was just lonely. She was not from here originally. They'd moved here from another country. I think we had ended up pinpointing that. She just didn't want to be home by herself, and she liked her daughter being there. So you just never know what you're going to run into.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate
Yes,
it.
I was just curious, so that the middle schooler was keeping the younger kids, were the parents working, or were they?
She worked at McDonald's.
Well, and just couldn't afford daycare probably.
There was a lot of defects issues there too. I believe there were 7 children in that particular home. I think she might have been pregnant with another, if I remember correctly. That one got pretty bad. She was incarcerated, I think, for 60 days. And then she moved to Montana. I think she had family up north.
So did they take
I
the
did not
kids away?
banish her from Cook County.
Okay. I'm just wondering, you know, like when they're in prison, where do the kids go? Or in jail, I say, not prison.
Listen, and like, I think in her particular case, and I'll give you a good example, we had a young lady that had truancy issues here a few years ago. I think she went on probation, ended up moving to Tift County. They know how to run. I mean, they'll run from DFACS, they'll run from the law, they'll find another jurisdiction. You know, I have a bench warrant on one right now. She claims I think the child was going to Bibb County. I don't even know if we ever verified the child was actually in Bibb County, but a lot of times when they get these DFACS issues going on, it's easier to run from them than to hang around and deal with them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Like I said, if y'all need us to do anything different, please let us know. We're all ears. Like I told Miss Sherry when we started this a few years ago, I mean, this is new to us too, so we're learning as we're going and trying to find the best system that, you know, gets the kid in school, holds the parent accountable. And then, you know, like I said, we're all about getting these kids graduated and being, you know, having a productive life. So any little small part we can play in that, we're glad to, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you so much. Okay, next up, we're going to need someone to approve, well, let's bring up the consent agendas that we've just looked at earlier. Do I have a motion we approve the work session and the regular session from last month?
Make a motion that we approve the regular section and the work session from last month.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Sumner, thank you. Any discussion? Hear none, call for approval. All approve it like sign, raised hands, unanimous. Thank y'all. Okay, next we're going to go into the action items, and this is to, where Mr. Akery went over the recommended changes for the handbook to include the phone usage during lunchtime, and no change with the shorts. Is that what I got out of it? Okay. Do I hear a motion we approve?
I make a motion, we approve the changes that Dr. Akery made in the dress code.
And a second? Mr. Taylor, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for questions. All approved, please indicate with raised hands. Unanimous. Okay, next up was the personnel shared by Dr. Holly. I hear a motion we approve the personnel that was presented by Dr. Holly.
Make a motion, we approve personnel.
Second.
Second in stereo.
You didn't.
Ms. Sharon, I heard that one. I got a better idea, I guess. Any discussion? Hear none, call for approval. Please indicate raised hands if you approve. Unanimous. Thank y'all. We're going to keep rolling with the 7-year bus plan, which I voted for y'all's shirt, by the way. I hear a motion we approve the 7-year bus, or the dancer anyway. You got to give her credit. Wasn't she a good one? She did nice. Okay.
I make a motion we approve the 7-year bus replacement plan.
May I have a second?
A second.
All right, Ms. Brenda did the second. Any discussion? Hear none. Call for approval. If so, please raise hand. Unanimous. Thank y'all. All right, next up, the M&O millage rate, which will come down to, was it 15 point something?
15.075.
Okay. Do I hear a motion we approve lowering the millage rate to 15.075?
I make a motion, we approve lowering the millage rate down to 15.075.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
We're technically taking the rollback rate, right?
Right.
So,
Yes.
but it's generating $150,000 more dollars, ain't that right? Ain't that what you told me?
Approximately, yeah.
Any other discussion? Who seconded that one? Court.
I did.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hear none, call for questions. All approved, please indicate raised hands. Unanimous. Okay. Next up is the bond millage rate. This is where we add the 1% tax bond. Okay. Do I hear any motions that we approve this?
Make a motion that we approve the bond millage resolution.
All right, I have a motion.
Second.
I hear a second. Any discussion? Hear none.
Can I say a few words about that,
Absolutely.
sir?
Yes, sir.
Way back when we started with the high school projects and all that, when we went through a tough time in, what was it, 07, 08, somewhere along in there, and we kind of promised the public that we'd done this bond meal, and we promised the public that, you know, when we pay for the high school, you know, that thing would sunset. And I realized that it's a funding mechanism for the buses. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for updating the buses. But I'm also a man of my word, and I voted for it way back then when we did it, because we had to have it. And right now, you know, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I don't think we have to have it. And that's my thoughts on it. You know, if we get 150 more on the taxes, and that meal is going to generate $390, then that leaves us with $240. You know, can we find $240 somewhere in the budget to pay for the buses? That's my thoughts. But that's why I feel like I do. I don't think I ever explained that. But that's why I feel like I do, because we promised the public one thing and it didn't happen. It kept going. And so that's why I feel like I do about it. And I just want to get that out, get it off my chest. So I'm not mad at anybody if they vote for it, or not glad if they don't, whatever. You know, I'm just telling you why I feel how I feel about it. And I think with the, you know, the SPLOST, you know, is up. I doubt it'll be up 84,000 every month, but if it is, we have a record year. But it's been up every year that you had on that paper. And I just think we can afford it without the bond meal, because you get the situation where these people have been burdened with this extra SPLOST, or the SPLOST, to help pay for our facilities. And you don't hear people cry. It's the fairest tax. I wish all the taxes was like that, just to 1 cent, whatever, to whatever it is. But they have helped us pay for what we've got. And I just feel like it's just asking a little extra to help, ask them to help us do this bond mill, which is on the landowners, basically. And so that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Are there any other discussions? I think I shared my feelings last month on every taxes. So, yeah, I think we got, personally, I know we have great fund balances. Thank y'all for everything we're doing on that. And thank God for the money that the county is raising through sales tax. So I agree wholeheartedly. Okay. Call for questions. All approved, please indicate with raised hands.
Do we need to take another look at it? Should we vote on it right now?
Yeah, we need to vote. It's on the
Okay.
table. Yeah. We got to vote, yea or nay.
Okay. All right, well, I had two. Any opposition or opposed, like signs?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know
It's okay.
So what's the vote?
What's the vote? Yeah.
2 for, 2 against. 1 abstains.
Who abstained?
Ms. Sharon.
Oh.
Just need to look at it a little bit more.
Okay.
So it's 2-2.
All right, next up, we got the fundraisers. I hear approval or a motion that we approve the fundraisers as presented.
Make a motion, we approve fundraisers.
Second.
And I second. Any discussion? Hear none. Call for questions. All approved, please indicate raised hands. Yes, thank y'all. All right, board members. Now, as you were, field trips. Do I hear a motion we approve field trips?
Motion to approve the field trips as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon. Any discussion? Hear none. Call for questions. All approved, please indicate raised hands. I think that's unanimous. Thank y'all very much. Any board member like to bring up anything?
I would like to bring up, we had the Harlem Globetrotters, or the Harlem Legends, last Saturday was a week ago. And we had a tremendous turnout, I think. I mean, we weren't packed, but it was a good turnout. And our fundraiser, we were able to raise and give to the SOC program, I haven't told her this, $4,200.
Awesome.
Great. Very good.
And of course, the band, they did the concession stand, so they got all the profits from that. And we, with the help of some others and Dr. Akery and Dr. Dixon, they helped get some supplies for us to add to what we were giving away on Saturday morning. So I think it was close to 500 book bags that we gave away.
That's really good.
That morning.
Yeah, it was, and, you know, that was put together really quickly, and it turned out to be a nice event. And I enjoyed the game. It was really entertaining. You know, I had told Miss Sharon when she'd asked me about it, I told her that I'd remembered the Harlem Globetrotters growing up as a kid on ABC on the Wide World of Sports, and I even remember a couple of their names, and you do too, if you admit it. But it was really good, and the folks there enjoyed some really good entertainment, so thank y'all for doing that very much.
And luckily, none of us got picked for the half-court shot.
Yeah. If they'd have drawn my ticket, I was gonna pretend like it wasn't mine.
I was gonna do the granny shot. I just tell you, I was gonna do the granny shot. That's what I was.
I hear you.
I've rung it at half court from the granny shot, but not shooting it overhand like a normal.
We do appreciate the work that Scott Morris has put into the gym out there. It looks really nice. He's put a lot of effort in. Dr. Dixon, would you like to share anything?
No, that's got everything covered. We're, I think we'll be back on our routine schedule next month. I said no, but yes. We're gonna be recognizing some students from Cook High, I think's the first, and we'll start, instead of having the bulletin board like we used to do, we'll have a rolling PowerPoint, and that'll start here shortly. And then we'll recognize the students that Dr. Williams and her staff identify at our next board meeting. So looking forward to that. We'll fill this room up, get back to old times like we used to do, and I can't wait.
Sharon to understand
Please.
that the millage rate has to be submitted this month, so there will be no time to revisit the bond mill. I'm perfectly fine with the way you voted, but I did hear you say, do we need to talk about it some more? There is no time to talk about it anymore.
Okay.
Y'all have to decide as a board tonight so that we can turn that number into the county.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm taking the 2-2 as a no. I'll have to clarify that, because I've not had it happen in my 7 years as superintendent, to be quite honest with you. Chad, I'll defer to you. You've been on this board for quite a number of years, but I've never had a situation like this to occur, and I'm being perfectly honest with you. I could make something up, but there ain't no sense in doing that. I don't know.
Well, I'm almost 99.9% sure if it's a tie, it's a no vote because it's not passed.
Mm-hmm. And that's my thinking, but again, I don't know that for sure.
Even
And
if
like I said,
the abstention is the one who made the motion, I think that was I just wanted her to understand.
But you can make it, I mean, you can make a motion and a second just to get something on the floor for a vote. You know, it's not necessarily that you're gonna vote for it, against, or abstain, but that's
I'm with
proper.
you, but you heard what she said.
Yeah, I did.
And so I just want her to understand where she's coming from.
So what does this do for us?
Yeah, I wish we'd have had a little more background on this too, I guess.
And I'm not trying to influence anybody's votes, but I know that I voted against it for the last several years. And for a couple of years, I was the only one. And then last year, Jeff voted against it as well. But I haven't give y'all the story of why I done that, but that's why I done that. But, you know, I feel like we can afford to do the buses without it. You know, that's just my thoughts, you know, and y'all may disagree with me, and that's okay. We'll still be friends, but that's my thoughts, and that's the way I feel. I don't want us to not have the buses, you know, and
Corky, I'm not sure. I mean, I thought Jackie had really laid it out there as far as what we needed in the plan. I mean, nothing's changed. It's, the plan is the plan, and let me read this real quick. Which part am I reading here?
I'm short and you took it.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to read that part in regards to.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with that. Yeah, thank you. All right. So, any specific questions?
Well, so what does this do?
Well, right now, it's a no.
I mean, so
We'll have to try to figure it out.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
we're gonna lose that amount of money, so we'll have to go back to the drawing board and now see if it's a no, and I think it is, then we'll have to either figure out another way to fund these buses or not order the buses. I mean, that's really our only two options there. So we'll take a look and see. We want to try to continue buying these buses. You know, we're so close to getting every bus air conditioned, and now to stop sort of deflates me a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I totally get it. I understand. It's just what I wanted to do, but, you know.
Well, by the same token, you know, I was kind of deflated as well, because I'm the only holdover on this board that made.
And you had a moral obligation to vote
made
that
the
way.
promise
That's
to
right. You sure did.
You know,
and I totally get that.
And
I
I'm
do.
looking at, you know, SPOS money coming in, you know, this, like I said, this month is or the first month was $84,000 more. I know it won't be that all year, but this went up every year. And our debt service, we've done 10.3 million, right, Jackie? 10.3? Wasn't it? Principal,
Yeah.
10.3 million over 5 years is 2.5 million plus interest.
And not to get it.
We had $3.5 million come in last year, you know, and I think we can afford it without it. 240,000 on a $30 million budget is very peanuts.
Yeah, and you may be very well right, but you have to take into account what we have in line to pay for beyond the buses. We've got some modifications we're about to do at the middle school where we're earning some money from the state, and then rolling in right behind it, we've got some modifications going on at the primary school where we're earning money. So yes, you are right, but I look at it more globally, and is that going to hurt us with those projects that we've already got on the table? It may not. I mean, it truly may not, but you can't just isolate on the surface that monies and say there's plenty of money. You may be right, but you may not be. And that's what we'll have to look at and see. We want to continue to move forward with these other projects. We've got, I can't remember, Jackie, just on the middle school alone, what we're looking at for this money that we just applied for. Do you remember? Yeah.
I couldn't hear her.
Yeah.
With our state capital outlay, we earn funding based on how long we let it sit there and grow. So when we did our HVAC at the primary school, we basically had that almost completely funded. It was $131,000 that was local. With our projects at the middle school, we have not let that sit there and grow. So we will be splitting a 50-50 draw with those projects. And I don't remember the exact dollar amount. And just to add to what Chad said, we do have the $10.3 million in bonds, but we also have the Carolyn Harris that is still not paid off. So, I mean, I understand, me and him has always understood each other. I understand where he's coming from. I understand where I'm coming from. And I'm like Dr. Dixon. I think the thing that bugs me the most, Chad, is to get to the point where we have all the buses air conditioned and then just let it flop. So, on a personal note, that's just my.
And I'm not saying letting it flop. Like I said, I'm for the buses. I just, you know, I mean, the landowners, you know, I mean, we couldn't address Mr. Ron, what was it? Huh? Mozo. We couldn't address him, but, you know, one reason those taxes
that those people don't get breaks is because they're the ones that own the land, the people in that age bracket. There's a lot of people in that age bracket that own the land that help pay for this stuff. And these people that own multiple or lots of land, they're the one that's gonna be hurt by this bond mill. And that's a fact. I'm not saying it's not, people that own an acre lot in town, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not gonna affect them like it affects somebody that owns 2,000 or 3,000 acres. It's gonna affect them a lot. And I think we have burdened them a lot over the past. Right now, back in the past when we had to have furlough days and all that kind of stuff, and freezing Valak and all that kind of stuff, the teachers were given and the landowners were given with the bond mill and all this school taxes and all that. Everybody was given to the pie. But now everybody's back at work and just they're given to the pie. And at some point, you just got to say, look, we got to tighten our belts. We've had to tighten our belts. Right now, we don't have to because we had money pouring in like crazy. And I know that won't always be the case. But the fact of the matter is, if a mill is $390,000 and we're getting 150 more taking the rollback rate, that's $240,000. That's 0.008 of our budget. That's not a lot. And I'm not trying to make anybody mad. I'm just trying to explain how I feel like I feel.
And I'm just trying to defend the other side.
I understand.
There has to be one on both sides. You both
That's
know
right.
that. Each bus is $128,000 this year. It's not 92 like it's been in the past. So, and that's going to continue to increase. Would you be? I don't even get a vote. I don't even get a talk. Y'all fix to take this microphone away from me, but would you be in opposition of you still taking your nay vote as you have in the past if this was a final year that we asked for the bond mill and we said that publicly and that was part of the vote?
Well, I made a promise.
I understand that.
And that's why I'm voting like I am.
But
I made a promise to the public that I voted for it when we had to have it.
You voted for it one time. I was here, Jeff.
Yeah, I know.
got
You and I were the only ones that were here as far as in making decisions, so.
So what's your answer to what I just proposed?
Well, I'm standing by my original decision, I am. I said it and I voted, that's why I voted all these years no. And I've been the 1-4 vote, and that's fine with me. But that's why I do what I do, that's it.
We'll figure it out. We're still gonna try to find a way to make it happen, and I appreciate it. That's just the way it is.
Again, I ain't trying to make nobody mad. I ain't trying to upset anybody. I talked to, good Lord, Lana before the meeting when I seen her outside. I forgot my phone, but I told her, I said, look, I don't want you mad at me, but that's the way I feel. And but there again, if you're mad or glad, I'm standing by my convictions. And if I don't stand by my convictions, they're not convictions, okay? And and that's just the way I roll. And so, I voted no, and I'm standing behind my no.
I pretty much understand your side, and I definitely want the buses, to be completed. But Chad's point of view, it really should have been brought up in like an executive session so that we all could have discussed it and, kind of made some decisions like that. Taxpayers,
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Say again.
Correct.
Are we past the point of being able to go to executive session?
We can't go to executive session on this anyway.
That's not an item that can even be discussed in executive session.
That's right.
So it's one that's, it's not been an issue. We rolled it out just like we have in the past, and the vote fell the way it fell, and I'm okay with it. We're fine. we're okay. It's not end of the world.
And the reason I didn't bring it up in the regular meeting before, the first meeting, is because I don't want to influence anybody. You vote your conviction, and I'm gonna vote mine, and I'm not gonna be mad at her if she votes different from me. That's the first thing they said. When I come in to the board in November 2005, Susan Griffin asked me, says, we don't vote the same and we disagree on something, can we still be friends? I said, absolutely. I said, because I'm gonna always vote my convictions, whether they're yours or not. And I've lived by that for almost 17 years. So, anyway.
That's all I got, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that's it then. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a great, safe night. Good night. Thank y'all for coming.
Good night. We still under time.